So normally I wouldn't applaud a fourth place ranking, but I think we should make an exception in the energy drinks category. I'll get to some of my thoughts around that introductory statement a bit later in this content, but as I normally do with my quarterly financial content of these publicly traded functional CPG brands, I will use the recently filed earnings report, the earnings conference call, and any relevant publicly disclosed news. In this case, it's for Celsius Holdings and their 2022 quarter one to obviously update you on the performance of how that brand is doing of energy drinks, but also use it as the backdrop to discuss market insights within the broader energy beverage category. That being said, let's start with some of those revenue numbers. In this quarter, Celsius Holdings had revenue of $133.4 million. That was up 167% year over year and up 28% on a quarter over quarter sequential basis. This marks back to back $100 million plus quarterly sales performance for the company. North American sales were $123.5 million, which was up 217% year over year. International sales, though, were $9.9 million, which was down 10% year over year. The Nordic region makes up most of the international revenue because of a prior mergers and acquisitions target, and that makes up approximately 86% of the international revenue. That international region was down year over year, but the business performance did improve quarter over quarter. They also landed additional convenience channel distribution in the region through 7-Eleven, and that starts in this current quarter of Q2. Gross profit margin was 40.4%, which was down 70 basis points year over year, but up slightly on a sequential basis. The normal culprits were causing the year over year gross margin compression, including needing to import cans to fulfill demand and raw material price inflation. That said, a majority of these cost increases have been offset by efficiencies of scale. Margins should further improve in the second half of 2022 because of, firstly, they will cycle through the last of those international cans that had a higher cost associated with them. And secondly, they took a frontline price increase on April 1st, which the company feels confident will create a fairly inelastic effect on demand. Want to shift this content into retail and distribution. Celsius Holdings is now in 142,000 locations in North America. That's up 7,000 since reported last quarter. Celsius now has 288 regional direct store delivery partners or DSD partners. 99% of all US population is now covered by the Celsius DSD network. 72% of all large tracked retail accounts are now being serviced by this more robust DSD network, and that has led the distribution channel to deliver growth of 395% year over year. Now, a cooler strategy has helped that. They placed an additional 700 coolers in Q1, which brings the total since the program inception of around 1,900 coolers. These coolers are placed strategically in locations where they can really drive additional velocity from the immediate impulse purchases. If it's cold, it's sold. Growing customers' access to cold product availability allows them to take part of the larger energy drink category. Additional cooler expansion and acceleration of this strategy will be seen throughout 2022. Now, shifting this over to some Nielsen data for the period ending April 9th of 2022, the last 2 weeks, Celsius has grown at 216% year over year. The last 4 weeks, that growth rate was 215% year over year. And then the last 12 weeks, that growth rate for Celsius was 230% year over year growth. That level of consistency is quite impressive, even as the law of large numbers starts to kick in for Celsius Holdings. These 200% plus growth rates compare to the broader energy category, which grew at 11% year over year over the last 12-week period. Now, I also want to kind of dive deeper into a few specific sales channels that will provide additional color to the Celsius Holdings growth story. Firstly is the digital channel, and this is really the next frontier in terms of retail. And having a long-term integrated sales channel strategy needs to be centered around the digital channel. This has been an area of huge strength for Celsius Holdings for the last several years. And they really like kind of outpunch their weight class, so to say, especially when we're talking about Amazon. Now, Celsius Holdings saw another record quarter on the marketplace with an increase of 58% year over year, and that outpaced Amazon's category average by more than 2.5 times over the last 4 weeks, ending April 23rd, 2022. They are now securely the second largest selling energy drink on Amazon, only behind Monster Energy, and Celsius is outpacing the third place Red Bull brand by almost 7 percentage points. Next, I want to talk about the club channel. And in Q1, Celsius launched into 589 Sam's Club locations. That brings their total club accounts to over 1,100. The channel generated more than 23 million of incremental revenue year over year. With the continued successes at Costco and some of the early feedback on the Sam's Club performance, Celsius is leaning even heavier into the channel by testing in some of the BJ wholesale accounts regionally. Next channel I want to talk about is the granddaddy of them all, and this is the convenience channel. And if Celsius Holdings or really any energy drink brand wants to make a material impact in today's energy drinks market, they must perform well in the convenience channel. This is where pretty much two-thirds of all the total sales within the energy drinks category happens. And Celsius has continually added new accounts. They're up 88% more C store locations year over year, which now totals about 64,000 locations. And while that store count growth is impressive, it doesn't mean Celsius is hitting a wall yet. I think there's 150,000 C store locations. So all commodity volume, or the ACV, which is a weighted measure of product availability or distribution, based on total store sales, is still fairly low when you compare them to some of the market leaders in the energy drinks category. Now, I want to shift the remaining bit of this content away from sales channel performance and into what I was mentioning in the introduction. For the last 4 week data set from IRI, ending on April 17th of 2022, the energy category grew an incremental $101 million. Celsius was responsible for 38% of that total. In terms of that $38 million in dollar share growth, Celsius eclipsed every competitor from Monster Energy to Alani Nu to Red Bull to Ghost Energy to C4 Energy. It doesn't matter. Celsius was the number one brand driver of growth to the energy category. And you might be asking yourself, like, how the heck is Celsius Holdings achieving this feat? Really, they're expanding the demographics by bringing in an industry leading percentage of consumers from outside and new to energy category while accelerating their share. This is the core of why Celsius can really get on shelf almost anywhere they want right now because of that incrementality. In terms of market share during this same period that I've been talking about, the impressive performance pushed Celsius Holdings past Rockstar Energy for the number 4 position in the energy category. That fact was like casually dropped during the conference call. Nobody really made a big fuss about it, but it really draws on some comparisons to what happened a few years ago, in my opinion. This is when Bang Energy surged past Rockstar Energy with astronomical growth rates. That led to about a year of business as normal for Bang Energy. They continued to grow before they decided to make an exclusive distribution agreement with Pepsi. Will this be something similar that happens at Celsius? I think during that time, I'd also say that mergers and acquisitions offers were on the table for Bang Energy, but Jack Oak wasn't particularly interested in that liquidity option. That won't be the same thing, I don't think, at Celsius Holdings, partly because they are a publicly traded company and need to assess and kind of dive into all options for generating shareholder value, but also that many of the investors have been in the company for years and a liquidity event could be preferable. Just want to end on some quick final thoughts. Celsius has reached another inflection point, one that positions the company for another round of growth and market share gains. The company is gaining considerable momentum in taking advantage of today's global wellness trends and the transformation happening inside of the energy category. The company has committed the right level of resources to maximize this opportunity, and it should see concurrent expansion of ACV across all channels while also increasing retail velocities. The setup is quite great for the rest of 2022, but it won't be without challenges, and competition will be breathing on Celsius from all directions. I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. If you did, consider hitting the like button to support me. Also, help me get to my short term goal of 2,000 subscribers by hitting the subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that three-fourths of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.